The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Journey back to the days when you and your best friends would sit on the floor around the soft glow of your tube TVs. Back to the days when the signs of a great weekend involved some pizza and a trip to Blockbuster Video. Back to the days where every amazing gaming adventure began with well, you know what I mean. Join your hosts, Jacob Rush and Ryan Black, as they revisit the games that built the greatest generation of gamers in history as they wax on about their nostalgia. Nintendo nostalgia. Available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else you get your podcast entertainment. Part of the Make Us Better community. Find out more at patreon.com/makeusbetter. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of PSVG. It is I, your host, Kevin, and with me this evening on this late edition, which surprisingly doesn't have somebody from the West Coast this time, we're just doing it late, is Kyle. Sir, how are you?
I'm swell, Kevin. Very excited to be back.
Yay. Kyle's been dodging me for weeks, so it's only about time he had to give in so I'd stop asking him, basically, is what it all is. And since Kyle never travels alone because it's dangerous to go alone, he took this. And by this, I mean, Josh, how we doing, man?
Hey, does that make me the sword?
Pretty much, yeah. I guess in that analogy it would.
It's always me. I get compared to a traveling companion of Kyle's every week.
That is true. But all right, so you could be the sword. Now, do you douse enemies with flammable or inflammable oil then?
Well, this is a broadcast on YouTube, right? Because
yes,
I'm not used to video. I was about to do an obscene gesture in reference to the sword, not at you. yeah.
Well, I figured. So yes, that's a Dead Cells joke. If you're not with it, everybody, that happened a little bit before the broadcast. But before we get started with tonight's show, we do have to take a quick second and thank all of our amazing producers over at patreon.com/makeusbetter for making this all happen and making us one step closer to our goals. We have to thank our platinum executive producer, Mr. Corey Hicks over at twitch.tv/chicks_18, Mr. Mark Moody over at youtube.com/outoflives. Go check them out. Our gold executive producers, thank you to Mike BC and Panache Malloy. And then, of course, thank you to our executive producers, Brendan Myers, Tony Hutchinson, Donnie Reece, Stephen Iafrate, JoeySplats, Caro Underwood, Dante Bellini Jr., Jared Gauthier, Dude427, me, Josh, and now Kyle, Tammi Ryan, Robert Miller, Tim Aulph, Martini Jean, and David Ray. Thank you to all of our amazing producers and our listeners for that matter. And if you want to help us reach our new goal of $400 so we can achieve that next level, our next XP level, if you will, so that we can break the PSVG podcast network feeds into multiple so that the Board with Video Game guys can have their own feed and can market out to people who are maybe just into board games. And the Nintendo Shack can break out and market out to the Nintendo masses. That goal will help us do that and make it even better than we are already. So anyway, if you're so inclined, head on over to patreon.com/makeusbetter to learn more and anything you can do to help support us. We greatly appreciate it. And hey, even if you don't want to do it financially, we appreciate you listening in the first place. So with that being said, let's get down to business, guys. Let's talk about what we've been playing. As I mentioned last week when we took over, being brought to you by Fluxopose, ironically enough. So I'll go first because you guys just talked about what you were playing not that long ago when you recorded Board Video Games a couple days ago. Spider-Man, a lot. I worked from home for 2 days this past week, and the second day I was able to kind of like, while I was working, and then I had to wait a little bit for something to happen. Oh, I can knock out a couple missions in Spider-Man. So I'm kind of getting through that as fast as I can so I can move on to Tomb Raider before we get Red Dead and all this other stuff that's going on. But absolutely love it. There's nothing I don't think that's already been said. I just love the way it feels, the way he traverses. The missions are great. The story's phenomenal. Although I will say, and this is staying relatively spoiler-free if you've seen any Spider-Man trailers at all that was shown before, I've played a lot of this game, and I've yet to see the Sinister Six show up yet. So don't comment, Josh, because I know you've already beaten it. And I think Kyle, based on what I was listening to, is around the same part percentage-wise in completion. And I've only really been fighting the Mr. Negative we've seen in a couple appearances here and there by other people, but I'm just kind of waiting. I'm like, is it all happening in like the last act and just all at once? I don't know. We'll see. I know it's coming. It just hasn't hit me yet.
I was going to say, just get to the end of Act 2.
See, but you guys keep referencing these acts, and nowhere do I see like end of Act 1. I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, right, because you don't have your trophy notifications on.
Well, I fixed that. Okay. But it doesn't say Act 1 or Act 2. It just, you get trophies. So.
Right, but once you get to the end of Act 2, you're probably pretty close. When I checked, I played last night, I think my game percentage finishes in the 70s now.
Okay, I was playing a little bit before we recorded. I think I just finished what you're referring to, and it looks like the next part of the story is going to be happening. So I'm getting there. I messed around a little bit with the Nintendo Online stuff. So obviously they gave us those 20 NES games you can play multiplayer. And I just realized how many of the NES games I just don't like. Yeah, it's fine. It's a great bonus. There are a couple of games like Zelda is fun and Mario 3 is fun. Like those are great, but everything else is kind of like I played for like 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I don't like these games. So it's all good. But we are doing a Tecmo Bowl tournament for what it's worth. It's probably going to be terrible, but we're going to stream some of that and get that going. More details to follow with that. If you signed up, just await Donnie's messaging. He'll let you know. And then lastly, the thing Caro's been bugging us all about if we haven't played it, which nobody had prior to recently, and that was Undertale. I got it. I played about a half hour last week, and then I got about another hour into it today. It's okay. I don't know. I really don't. I get what it's doing. The music, I will say, is absolutely phenomenal. The soundtrack is fantastic. I went and found it on Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime Music, all 103 tracks of it. It's fantastic. Like, that is great. Once again, I think it's just another case of people hyping as like, whoa, it's heavily inspired by Earthbound. Okay, that doesn't mean it's actually like Earthbound, guys. It's not comparable really much at all. The music is great and is similar to it. Even the graphic style isn't the same. Like, it's more the same to Mother, the first one that we didn't get in the US until it got ported to the Wii U. Like, it's 8-bit. It's not even 16-bit, which, for the most part. So that's kind of iffy. And the combat, I mean, I'm torn as to why it feels the need to be a turn-based combat, but still have things you need to do and actually to attack and to defend. Like, it's turn-based, but not really, because you constantly need to be doing something anyway. And it's kind of a gimmick that I don't see me enjoying for very long. I'm already kind of getting tired of it, but I'm going to play through the game. It's well written. It's funny. It's just, I think this was another case of the internet severely hyping something that's fine and it's good, but it's not great. So I'm going to keep playing it though and stick to it. But that's it for me. Kyle, so what are your thoughts a little bit more on Spider-Man? I know you're still plugging away at it.
Yeah, so I'm still really enjoying it. I think that there are some interesting decisions that they've made with the game overall, and I've obviously, on Board with Video Games, been heaping praise upon the game. But, I think Donnie brought up a good point recently that it's kind of weird when you go to side quests, it has to adjust the time of day. Like, that's just kind of a quirky thing that's in there. There's a few little odd things I think they did with this game, but overall having a ton of fun playing it. I think once you get through, like I said, I just got through Act 2, now in Act 3, the game feels very different. Like, it really feels like a different game that I'm playing right now, and I think that's great, because I kind of felt like I was maybe getting into the same old, and I was like, okay, like the story I thought in Act 2 was really good, and then I got into Act 3 and just things are very different about how the city feels and how you do everything. Like, so I'm really excited. It makes me want to jump back in and I want to finish the story. I want to see what happens. So I think that the fact that they were able to do that with, me not being a huge comics guy, I think that's great. The fact that I want to know what's going on and I want to see where this story is going to go. People keep talking about post-credit scenes. I really want to know what those are going to be. Insomniac has said that they've not officially confirmed a sequel, but I think Brian Intihar said something along the lines that they want to keep us invested in the Spider-Man universe for years to come. So I assume we're getting a sequel based off of that comment. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying this, hoping to finish it up and polish it off this weekend so I can also move on to Shadow of the Tomb Raider before Assassin's Creed comes out. But still loving it, still really enjoying it. Definitely, I think it is a must play if you own a PS4. And if you're thinking about getting a PS4, if you're on the fence, you know, they're getting pretty cheap these days. This seems like a great reason to get one, or additional reason to get one, because there's already a ton of great games on there. Outside of that, the only thing I really played is because we are having a Tecmo Bowl tournament, I downloaded I played Tecmo Bowl. Man, am I bad at that game.
Yeah, so am I.
Very, very quickly in this tournament, but hey, I'm going to participate. I wish, is there a way in these Nintendo Classic games to look at the controls?
No, and that's what, not that I've seen at least, and that's what's I have to look up to the controls. I'm like, I thought I knew how to play, but apparently I don't. And it being only 2 buttons, you'd think you'd get it, but no, not so much.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I was like, because I can't remember back to that far back about like things that I feel like I should be able to do, but maybe that was too advanced for the time. So I definitely need to look that up. And also my other question, and maybe this was answered on the Nintendo Shack that I haven't listened to yet, but at the very, very bottom, is there a way to get rid of like the bar at the bottom that's like hit Z, RZL to like bring up the? Can you get rid of that or no?
I don't think so. Not that I saw.
Find that kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a huge deal. I just wish I could get rid of that. So, but yeah, download Tecmo Bowl, played that. Probably will get booted out of the tournament in the first round, but I figured, hey, I should at least practice a little bit so that the score isn't too horrible. But yeah, so that's about all I've been playing. Just Spider-Man and a little Tecmo Bowl.
Nothing wrong with that. So, Josh, have you had time to dive into anything else in the last, 2 days?
I did play Tecmo Bowl today. I'm pretty good at it, so now that I hear you guys, I'm not that worried. I played some more Dead Cells. I was going to say about Spider-Man, when we talked about it on Board with Video Games the first time, I was kind of telling Kyle, like, I don't think it beats Horizon Zero Dawn for me because it's easy. And Act 3 really does change the entire game. I was immediately finding the game more difficult and challenging.
Well, that's because you weren't upgrading anything, too. I heard that. I was like, wait, I still can't believe you guys didn't unlock suits. I unlock every single suit I can just because I want to change what he's wearing at any given point. Like,
well, I wasn't realizing that. Like, when I discovered the suits, that I wasn't also unlocking them. I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Oh, okay.
So I just assumed I had all these suits.
And I just looked at the suit powers and was like, this seems less cool than Web Blossom or whatever it's called. So I'm just going to keep doing Web Blossom. So
I've been using like the same power, but I like how the powers can interchange with any suit. So it doesn't matter if I'm tied to it. So I like that because I'm using a power that has nothing to do with the suit. But I kind of been using the same power for a while too. So.
Yeah, I use the same one the whole game. But now that I can upgrade all my gear, I'm just going to, there's something I can go back and do for one of the challenges that I needed to get higher on, so I'll go do that and see how I do. So I played some more Tomb Raider, not too much. I'm enjoying it, but I was given a task that takes me away from Tomb Raider, which is called Hover. So instead of enjoying my time at Tomb Raider, I'm writing a thesis for a college paper, essentially. Meaning it's hard and bad. Spoiler alert.
Oh.
The review, we'll be doing a review. I think Kyle and I will be doing some sort of joint review.
Mm-hmm.
Just so, misery loves company kind of thing. So...
Don't shade what I'm going to think about this. I might love this game.
I will say, remember, I have to go back to the PR people when you guys do stuff like this too, and kind of be like, "Here's what we did. Sorry." Like,
I won't. As always in reviews, I search for the positive.
Yes, and you got to be honest too. So of course,
and I will obviously be honest. I will say, what can I say about it? It just came out today. It's $24.99. It's on the PlayStation, Xbox. We're reviewing it on Xbox. I was surprised. It popped right into HDR, so
nice.
It's in that mode. It's definitely not a 4K game, so I don't know how that happened. It's like a running simulator mixed with jet grind radio. looks with the graphics of like Roblox or
Roblox, really? Ouch.
yeah, with the frame rate of a game running on a 486 Macintosh. And it has a PC interface, so everything is used with like a mouse button. And there's a tutorial that they put you through so you learn. There's grinding, there's double jumping off walls, just picking things up and putting them down, avoiding radar and security cameras. I don't know. There's a lot going on in this game. And eventually you get put into like this hub city, which is like, did you ever watch the show Reboot?
Yeah.
I should have said Reboot, not Roblox. It's like Reboot, but
okay,
not as pretty.
That's better. I would say Roblox is like Minecraft, but worse. So
yeah, not blocky. So it's like Reboot, but like what Reboot looks like now from when you watched it.
Yeah.
So, and like the city is very like neon, like neon-y, not noir, but like Blade Runner-y, like all the signs are neon. There's graffiti on the walls. You can do graffiti, so that's kind of like Jet Grind Radio a little bit as well. I'm definitely focusing on the negative things, but that's just because that's all I've seen so far. There could be a game in there, and I'm coming down harsh on it, but I did just come from Spider-Man and Tomb Raider to this game.
Yeah, it's not fair. Yeah.
It's not a fair comparison.
Go play Undertale for a little bit, and then go play that and see what you think.
I love Undertale, so I'm on the other side of the fence.
Okay.
For you.
I will say I'm looking forward to checking this game out.
Me
but
too.
I will say when Kevin's like, "Hey, I have a game for you guys to review," I was really confused because I watched the video and I know we have the code on Xbox, but the video is for PlayStation. I immediately looked at it and thought it was going to be a PSVR game.
Yeah, I can see that. See that.
Okay.
Because I was thinking it was going to be in the vein of like Sprint Vector.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Oh, I'm totally down for this. This is going to be awesome." And then it wasn't a PSVR game, and then I was a little disappointed because it seems like it would fit into that really well. So because of that, I'm excited to try out this game, and hopefully my experience will be different than Josh's experience has been thus far.
Well, I'm excited for you to play it so I can hear all about it.
Excellent.
Yes. All right. Anything else, Josh?
No, I don't think so. I got to the point in Tomb Raider where Donnie was, I wouldn't call it a spoiler, but he kind of like gave away that you see Lara Croft's mansion from when she was a kid.
Yeah.
So I just got to that part, so I'm not too far in the game.
Spoiler.
Well, it's already been said on this flagship podcast, so
I know.
I'm safe. I won't say it on board with VG. But I'm really enjoying it so far. I know that Bad Bit's looking for his son Jeremy. Has anyone seen him? I think that's a Undertale reference. I'm really enjoying it. If you heard us talk about it on board with video games, I'm really partial to Lara Croft as a character, and I know a lot of people aren't feeling that in the Tomb Raider series, so it's definitely a different experience for me than what I'm hearing from people, which is fine. But graphically, it is a stunning looking game. But I'm also enjoying the Lara Croft aspect of it as well. So it still gets a very high recommendation from me.
Fair enough. I'm sure I'll be commenting at some point in the next couple of weeks as soon as I wrap up Spider-Man. That's the next one I'm doing. So, but based on the comments both of you said on board with VG, I'm on more Camp Kyle in this regards too. But
Sure.
I still enjoy him. It's just not the same to me, but that's all. All right. So we got a lot of it, everybody. So it's time to check out the news of the week.
This week in Play Some Video Game News.
First up, Chris Taylor, like any Nintendo fan, was beyond hyped to see Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is shaping up to be this game of epic proportions. But unlike most of us, this 21-year-old is not sure he'll live long enough to see this game. You see, Taylor has terminal cancer and has been given a few months to live. So people, as the internet sometimes has this great moment of kindness and support, started a social media campaign to get Nintendo's attention. So over the last week, the Smash Brothers fans on Twitter, Reddit, everywhere kind of lobbied against Nintendo to get this game to Taylor so he could play it just in case he passes away before it releases. And the good news, today, Nintendo brought the game to him at his house and let him and his friends play Smash Bros. They played for like a couple hours there. He did only get to play the E3 demo version, but that's what he wanted in life. So he got to play it, experience it with his friends, took some photos there. Nintendo, for security reasons, obviously couldn't give the full version of the game because they're kind of keeping that under lock and key. So it's understandable. And he even said himself, he completely understands that. He's just grateful to be able to play it. Taylor has a type of bone cancer he's been fighting for over 3 years. He's had 6 different treatments for it. It's not getting any better. In fact, one treatment actually made it worse. So doctors were saying he had 3 to 6 months to live. So he decided to stop treatments and just live the rest of his life as he can. And that wanted to. So Nintendo did some good and made that happen for Taylor, which I thought was kind of incredible because, you know, Nintendo kind of doesn't always pay attention to what's going on and kind of does things their own way. But this time they certainly did something good here. So starting the news week off with some happy news, if you will. So it's good to see. Next on here, more Nintendo news. So this was rumored here, and we've been talking about this for a while, expecting it to be here, but we could be seeing the N64 Classic coming through thanks to a European trademark that's been revealed, suggesting that, yes, it is in the works. Points towards the popular console based on the controller image that's there pictured as well. But here's what's interesting now. Nintendo, if this is the case, timeline dictates exactly how this did with the NES Classic and the SNES Classic. We can still see this drop this holiday season if that's the case based on the time frame they did in the past, which would put it in contention head-to-head with the just-announced PlayStation Classic. So for the first time in over 2 decades, we can see the PlayStation and the N64 going head-to-head again like they did in the 90s, which is kind of amazing. Hilariously be a perfect throwback to this, so it'd be great to see. Nintendo hasn't said a word, but an early October announcement could see for a December release date and could be very interesting. Now, I personally been in the camp that I don't really want to revisit N64 games. They don't age as well as NES or SNES games do. But there are a couple in it that might get some people's interest. You know, Wave Race 64, Super Mario 64, obviously F-Zero, Mario Tennis, Mario Golf. All those things people would be hyped for. But we could see it happening. I don't think we'd see a GoldenEye or anything like that because of licensing issues, obviously. So I don't think that would ever happen. But we could see over the next few weeks, we could see if Nintendo drops that. So what would your guys' level of interest be if they did, in fact, drop the N64 Classic?
I'm more on the side of you. Like, N64 games, unfortunately, are almost unplayable. There are certain games that still work fine, but I've played GoldenEye recently, and I wouldn't call it playing GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And even when you can figure out what you're doing, it's just not that generation. Just they're games that just because of I guess the graphics, like stepping up from 8 and 16-bit, like they just don't hold up like they should. And even Mario 64 I played recently, it's okay, but it's still a challenge. And when you're used to, we complain about bad camera now for games.
Oh yeah.
Like people complain about Tomb Raider's camera. I get it. I see issues, but go try to play Mario 64 and not have played it before. Forget the people who know how to play it. These classics are getting reintroduced to kids who've never had the consoles, and they just, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with the PlayStation. I know I've been a little negative on it in the Discord, but mostly through other people's like issues. I've been trying to stay neutral towards it, but I don't see an N64 Classic coming out any cheaper than the PS1 Classic.
No, maybe $10, maybe. But
And when you're asking that much money from your consumers, that's not too far away from a Switch.
right.
And if why pay that much money for what could end up being bad games? Like if you've got the SNES Classic and try playing Star Fox 2, I think that's close to what you're looking at for like the N64 graphics and controls. They're just not great, in my opinion. So
No, I'm with you.
And I'm a huge old school Nintendo fanboy. Like N64 was an incredible console at the time.
At the time.
I still have an N64. I still have N64 games, but
you're not playing them.
It's not something I want to put myself through.
Right.
That's what I have Hover for.
Exactly. Oh, moving on. Kyle, your thoughts. Any interest at all?
Well, all I can say is, man, look at Nintendo copying PlayStation and putting out polygonal games on a classic system, just like they copied the Vita when they made the Switch. I mean, come on. No, I have zero interest in the N64 Classic. I also have, though, even as a PlayStation person, almost zero interest in the PlayStation Classic. And the reason for that being is I have a lot of very fond memories of the PlayStation. I also own a Vita, which means I could have basically all of those games that they're going to put on there. I already have access to. So really, if you want to get a really great way to play all those PlayStation 1 classics, go buy a refurbished Vita for super cheap, and then you can get them all for like $5 a pop. And you can get way more of them too. So that's my recommendation. Ignore the PlayStation 1 Classic. But also, like, I bought an SNES Classic. I thought it was going to be awesome. I played it for one weekend. It's not even hooked up to my TV anymore.
No.
Like, it's just not what I want to spend my time doing. You know, like, I think those things are cool, and there's a nostalgia trip there. But I'm not going to sit and play Final Fantasy VII, you know, for however many hours that I have to on my PlayStation Classic, just like I'm not going to on my N64 Classic. I have some great memories from the N64 from college. Lots of hours spent, especially in things like Mario Party with my roommates and things like that. Lots of GoldenEye, lots of those things. But I have new things I would rather be playing.
Totally.
Just for our listeners, if you're interested in the PlayStation Vita, used at GameStop, it's $150.
There you go.
$150 well spent, I say.
You can probably get it cheaper on eBay and stuff now too.
Probably.
But, yeah. So if you have been living under a rock, as we mentioned already a couple times here, the PS1 Classic is coming out December 3rd. It's going to go for $100. There's going to be 20 games on it, but they only announced 5, which I think is also very weird because when Nintendo does announce these things, they give you the whole lineup. So we know Final Fantasy VII, Jumping Flash, which I don't even know what that is. And I've heard other people talk about that.
It's such a good game.
It's a launch game.
Oh, okay. Ridge Racer, Type 4, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms. So, like you said, these games don't age well. Like, and Final Fantasy VII is literally on everything. That's like the Skyrim joke, where like you can play Skyrim on everything. Final Fantasy VII is at that point too, where it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. And the fact that they're all in their original format scares me too, because Nintendo, while they keep it the way it is, they do make some enhancements to make sure these emulators that are on these classics run better.
Right.
Like, they're not doing graphical things, but they make sure it's running better. I can't imagine some of the stuttering from back in the PS1 days, but I'm with you guys. Like, I just don't have any interest. I think it's going to still sell well because there will be people who will go out in troves and buy it. And as I've defended myself too, is if Sony only sells half of what Nintendo sells, it's still going to be a massive win for them because that's just money, hand over fist. That is, you know, these manufacturing on these things are super low. Super low. And it's like, okay, well, whatever you make it, whatever you sell is going to be worth it. So it makes sense for them to do it. And it'll build up some hype during the holidays when they don't have a big, first-party game. Now that Spider-Man's out, they have nothing really else to push or promote for the rest of the year that's just on them. Or I think this might be the opportunity where they're going to be like, hey, for the holidays, get this because you've already gotten Spider-Man. You're playing that now. So, you know, speaking of Spider-Man, and everybody already has it, Spider-Man is now the fastest-selling PlayStation exclusive game of all time, selling 3.3 million copies within the first 3 days of release.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, and it is insane. So they did some math numbers here. I've seen some crunches. So even if you just said, okay, every single person that bought this game only bought the standard version of the game, Sony made 198 million so far. So that's not factoring any collector's edition, which would bump it up. It doesn't factor in anybody that may have bought in the PlayStation 4 Pro bundle, which would bump it up in price there too. So this is just an incredible thing. Sony obviously had high expectations for this, but I think even this is really surprising some of them just how many people right away was like, yep, I'm playing it, let's go. It's just insane. Just insane. But like I said, it's totally worth it. And as Kyle said earlier, everybody that has a PlayStation should be playing this. And it is potentially a reason for somebody on the fence about PlayStation to get one. You partner that up with God of War this year, and those are two super high quality exclusive games that dropped this year just on PlayStation.
Could you imagine if PlayStation, because Xbox made a big move at E3, bringing on 5 new studios, if PlayStation was like, you know what, we really need to get one more first party studio in our stable. Obviously Insomniac's independent, they did Sunset Overdrive for Xbox, but traditionally have been making games on PlayStation. Do you imagine if they're like, you know what, we're going to see how Spider-Man does, and if Spider-Man does well, we'll make you an offer. How much that offer would have to go up now? Based on
Man,
the success of this game. Again, not saying that's going to happen.
Although Sony has the license for it, so they don't get to make another one unless Sony says it's okay. So that's
true.
Yeah.
I think they're probably pretty pleased with how this game went, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. So what do you say we make me a little angry, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Mick? You're not already?
No, I'm actually in a good mood so far tonight. So I hope I still get the fire here going. And our buddy Q, the Loborican, shared this story not with me, but he posted it, and I saw it and it got me angry. The cover of ESPN, the magazine, features a pro gamer. I say pro in air quotes. Pro gamer for the first time. And it is my self-proclaimed arch nemesis, Ninja. So in a world of YouTube and Twitch streamers and professional gamers, between the Overwatch League and the professional fighting game players and your PUBG things, Dr. Disrespect, the 2-time back-to-back world champion, this, I almost swore, clown is the first guy to be on the cover, and I am irritated. So Tyler Blevins, who's better known as Ninja, he's the most followed streamer on Twitch, although those numbers go up and down. Currently has over 11 million followers and gets an average of 43,000 viewers per stream. He confirmed he makes nearly $500,000 a month, mostly from Twitch Prime subs, but also from YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. He made the cover of ESPN magazine and said he's the first professional gamer ever to land on the face of the publication. They gave him an in-depth profile. It talks about how he stays on top of his game, what gigs outside of streaming he considers worth his time, and he briefly touches on the controversy surrounding his unwillingness to stream with women, which was covered before. So Ninja, if you're not familiar, originally got his start playing Halo professionally, which is a little bit more respectful, I think, and now he just plays Fortnite. He strives to practice every day, says even when he's streaming. He says, yes, there's a difference between practicing and playing because you're not learning and trying different things unless you're practicing. And then say you're just streaming. This is what kind of annoys me here. And this is where a lot of people defend him and they like him. And he's a good player, but there's much better people out there. You have Shroud, Dr. Disrespect, I said, that can do the same things this guy does. But I think it's the color of his hair and the tween kids just like watching him for some reason. So his comment about going to other events. When I decide whether or not I'm going to an event, the pay has to be there, he tells ESPN. If it's not paid, how much clout am I going to be getting? Am I going to be networking with people? And is that networking worth $70,000? So that's apparently his price tag. He did suggest that now he's making more than the $500,000 he was quoted earlier in the year saying, but he wouldn't go into strict details. And then the one thing he said he wanted to clear up about his comment about not streaming with women, which I don't think he cleared up. I think he actually just made the situation worse. He said he didn't want to stream with women originally because he didn't want people saying that there was something going on between him and the person streaming, because apparently you can't play with girls without having a relationship with them, so whatever. But he said one thing he wanted to clear about was this comment he made about it. He took a lot of heat for the remark, but he says he misspoke. And what he said was taken out of context and spun negatively. What he meant was that he did not want to stream with women because he's committed to his wife. This is my spouse. This is the person I vowed to spend the rest of my life with. The fact that anyone feels they can judge how I'm protecting my relationship and try to make it political, really? That was his exact comment. So instead of being like, hey, I don't want people assuming things, he's basically saying he's almost incapable of streaming with a woman without endangering his marriage. That makes no sense to me at all. So hopefully you guys get a little bit more glimpse as to why I hate this clown. I hate him. The things he does and the way he treats people and even his own supporters and the comments he says about himself and other players and his fans, I just don't like the way he conducts himself. And, far be it from me because I don't have that level of, interest that he does, obviously, clearly. But instead of just being a character, much like Dr. Disrespect plays a character where he can get away with that, this is just Ninja being Ninja, and he just comes off like a jerk, I think, a lot of the times. And that's where it's not like a gimmick, and I think that's kind of what irritates me more. But so, Kyle, you're a big fan of the Overwatch League. You follow that closely. I mean, whether players getting recruited, traded, the whole nine. Do you feel that maybe somebody in that league would stand out as a better representation of esports than Ninja has, and especially in this interview? That was the whole cloud of the interview, was how much money do I make? What gets me to actually leave my house? And I love my wife.
Well, I'll try. I'm going to address this on a few different levels. Number one, I know it probably sounds bad, but I get the idea of if I am asked to go to another event, I have to weigh how much money I'm going to make at that event. Because if I have to travel a day, go to the event a day, travel back a day, that's 3 days of streaming that I lose. And that's 3 days of people not resubscribing to your channel. That's 3 days of income he is giving up to go do that. So it makes sense to ask the question, how much am I going to get paid to do this? It's his job. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, do I wish I got paid $70,000 to go do that? I absolutely do. The Minnesota Twins, my hometown baseball team, not too long ago had a Fort Day game, and Ninja was there, and they played some Fortnite while there. I'm guessing they probably paid him $70,000 to come. But I can understand that when you're like, hey, I can only do this for so long. Like, you can't be a professional gamer forever, so you might as well get the goods while the getting's good, So that's one thing. I get it. I think it stinks to kind of talk about in that context, but I understand why he is looking at it that way from a business perspective. Mm-hmm. For the not streaming with women thing, I just think that's dumb. Whatever. I will say, like, one of my favorite streamers that I watch is an Overwatch streamer named Emong. He's one of my favorite streamers. I watch him all the time. He regularly streams with a support player named Fran, and they stream together a lot, like very, very regularly. Like, I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I think you can do those things, and if you're just cool with your community, nobody cares. But whatever. But how do I know? I don't make $500,000+ a month as a streamer, so maybe I don't know. As far as him being the face of esports, I honestly don't care that much. Like, could there be some people from the Overwatch League who I think would do a better job of representing esports? Sure, I absolutely think that is true, but I don't actually see this as a big reflection on esports. I see this as a reflection on ESPN, and they're like, we need to do stuff. Like, we need to attract a crowd that maybe we're not attracting right now. That subscriber numbers are down, viewership for them is down. Like, we had a long debate in the Discord after Overwatch was on ESPN, Overwatch League, was whether those rating numbers were good or not. And they weren't amazing, but they were not that far off from what other things ESPN gets ratings for. And keeping in mind, it was on ESPN, it was on Disney XD, it was on a whole bunch of different things. So it wasn't just on ESPN, and it was on Twitch and everything else. So I think, to me, when I saw that he was on there, I wasn't so much mad that it was Ninja that was on there. I was like, I wonder what this means for ESPN moving forward.
That's fair. Josh, your thoughts, because you've been silently listening and sometimes nodding and making some faces based on what we've been saying.
I mean, I agree with both of you on some level. I think like a great cover would have been like the entirety of the Overwatch League in a long, like, school photo kind of thing, because when you're talking about esports with ESPN getting involved, these are things that are being streamed now on TV. So you're not going to turn on and see Ninja on TV. You're going to see the Overwatch League. Like, my wife was flipping through the channels last week, and she's like, Disney XD has Overwatch League on. And I'm like, yeah, like, it's definitely becoming popular. So I agree with Kyle. Like, this is a big move for ESPN, because they're showing that they're trying to adapt to what's happening, and maybe they saw like the Counter-Strike thing happen last year or 2 years ago with Spike and thought it was nothing. And now they're seeing like this is clearly something that is continuously happening. Do I think that Ninja is the greatest cover person? No, I think he's a terrible cover person, and you specifically said why. I think that with what's going on right now socially and politically with the women's right movement and everything that's happening, to put someone on, so originally it was put out like, you have all this influence, yet you refuse to work with female streamers in an industry where it shouldn't matter, like I said, who you're streaming with. It shouldn't. The problem is, are you looking at it as where the people who are watching female streamers because they are streaming and you can see what they're wearing and they're being sexualized by teenagers? Or are you watching female streamers stream because they're good and you don't care what they look like, whether they are dressed provocatively or not? There's a lot of streamers out there that I watch are females where it's just the head cam.
Yeah.
And they're just on mic and they're playing. And there's that part of it too. Like that's going to happen regardless. So if he feels like a certain segment of female streamers is going to threaten his relationship with his wife, that's a personal decision he gets to make.
Right.
Like I have a friend who has a wife who will not let him speak to or go out with her or hang out with other women. Do we all think that's crazy? Absolutely, but we're not in that marriage. So maybe his wife is like that, or maybe he is like that. So do I think it stinks? Absolutely. But unfortunately, like, it is a decision he gets to make. But it's unfortunate when you can be a role model to other people and a leader that you can't separate the two of those things. I think that stinks. But I think if he's going to make that decision, maybe not now put him on the cover of a magazine promoting a whole new genre of quote unquote sport. Maybe pick a neutral person. But I guess it also doesn't get clicks and sales.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Like I wanted them to do right. I wanted them to do something better with highlighting this for people who maybe not familiar with what this arena of esports really is. And they took somebody that essentially doesn't really compete in anything. He's not competitive. So like you're highlighting esports and streaming, but it's like, but you're not actually talking to somebody who regularly competes. Like he's done some charity events recently. He did the Fortnite thing at E3 with the celebrity thing, but it's like he's not competing anymore. Like he's pretty much retired from that angle. So it's like, so give it to these other people that can kind of say, well, like, hey, this is a legitimate sport. We're looking at a time where esports is possibly going to be in the Olympics. So talk to somebody that actually has a shot at doing something like that, and you know, ESPN can then take the angle like getting these kids who aren't good at football or baseball, but they can play a game really well, to be like, hey, this counts as a sport too. This is acceptable, and this is a career path I can go and get, you know, college and now give scholarships out to esports, stuff like that too. This is a legitimate route for people who may not do well in school and can't afford, and they play football, they get in. This could be the same thing for gamers. And instead they took this guy who's more of just a clickbait celebrity type scenario, and he's not actually doing anything to push forward the industry as a whole, I guess is what I'm saying. Like this was a missed opportunity in my mind to really kind of promote something bigger.
Last brief note that I've been thinking about, and I think you're 100% right, because especially if ESPN is going to be showing Overwatch League more, this would have been a good idea for them to start talking about more, especially if you took it from the angle of, you know, the Boston organization is owned by the Kraft Group, who owns the Patriots. The New York organization is partially owned by the owner of the Mets. The San Francisco organization is partially owned by the owner of the Kings. Like, there's a lot of things they could have done to tie that in, and it's kind of disappointing now that I think about it that they did.
Yeah. So, all right, we should move on from this. But we will stay briefly on the subject of Fortnite. So, are you guys familiar with the concept of football widows?
Women who are married to football players who are now dead?
No. Well, I mean, technically, yes. But in this regard, I'm speaking to people who end up getting divorced because during football season the husbands just are completely absent and just do that. It happens.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
I have heard about it.
Well, in 2018 so far, keep in mind the year's not over, at least 200 couples in just the UK have filed for divorce while citing addiction to Fortnite. So we have Fortnite divorcees coming through. There's more than 125 million registered Fortnite players around the world. The game pulls in over 1 billion in revenue since launching in 2017. But apparently there's a growing number of people who may wish they spent a little less time playing. And yeah, people are getting divorced over Fortnite at this point. So I can say right now, Fortnite is not affecting my marriage. I know you guys don't play them as much or really at all. So yeah, I just thought it was a funny thing there that just it's a thing now.
I just wish they were citing a better game in their divorces.
That's true.
I'm kidding.
Nah, you're not wrong.
It's not painting gamers in a good light. I'll tell you that.
That is true.
An anecdote. So, because I live in Massachusetts, sports radio is on. You can't avoid sports radio, unfortunately. The Boston Red Sox have a pitcher who had a hand injury who was obsessed with Fortnite. So for the past 6 months, we've had to listen to sports radio people talk about Fortnite every day for hours on end, and they don't understand it, which makes it 10 times more frustrating. But they know who Ninja is, and now that you brought that up, I do remember them talking about the divorces. So now they're talking about the divorces. They're still talking about David Price, one of our best pitchers, hurting himself. They get down to calling people losers and nerds.
Of course they do.
And fat and on their couches. Like every stereotype has come out of the woodwork. It's very embarrassing for me to sit in a room of 8 really heavy sports fans who listen to sports radio, knowing that I'm on podcasts and just having to listen to them listen to Fortnite. And they always look at me and they go, Josh, what is this Fortnite thing? Can you tell us what this is? I don't want to talk about it.
Like, no, I don't play Fortnite. I've never played Fortnite. I don't know what it is. Is that like Minecraft?
I mean, there was that story that not long ago where they were talking about how NHL prospects, they were telling them to clean up their social media and remove references to Fortnite because they didn't want the coaches worrying or the teams worrying about them spending too much time playing Fortnite when they should be working out or doing whatever else they're supposed to be doing. So it clearly is having an impact.
Which is insane, though, because they single out just Fortnite and all these stories. It's like,
right?
They could just be playing any game all the time, and it's still just as bad. Like, it's not that game, guys. If you're a gamer, you're probably, like, if you're a, like, real gamer, like us, for instance, we look for opportunities like, hey, I'm not doing something. Let me go play a game for a little bit, or let me get a couple hours in every day and do something. That could happen to anybody, regardless of profession, regardless of what game you're doing. It's the same thing. If I play 10 hours of video games a week, it's not going to be all one game. But if it's not, I mean, even if it is or it's not, what's the difference? I'm still spending that same amount of time playing a game and not doing.
If we want to talk about what's bad for marriages, this is bad for marriages, not for a portable gaming system. I've gotten some looks too. Yeah. Moving on. So we've had this trend the last couple episodes being able to talk about something coming to Netflix that's gamer related, but it sounds like we're getting yet another gamer friendly series coming to Netflix. The streaming service already has Castlevania. We know they're working on The Witcher, as we talked about last week. The Twitter, that's Ninja. And now it seems a Diablo animated series may be next on the docket, and it has attached the writer of the Hellboy reboot, Andy Cosby. He tweeted out earlier today that I guess I can confirm I'm indeed in final talks to write and showrun the new Diablo animated series for Activision and Netflix. It's very exciting, and I hope to the high heavens it all works out. Well, looks like he guessed wrong because he quickly deleted the tweet, but as always, the internet never forgets, and they caught that. So based on his wording, the Diablo show isn't a done deal, but it's probably a pretty sure thing. We look at Diablo as a property is much bigger than, let's say, Castlevania, and Castlevania has actually done well on Netflix, so there's really not any reason to not go forward with the Diablo series if that's on the table and being talked about. So what do you guys think? Are you interested in the Diablo animated series? I have not jumped on the Castlevania one, but
I think I'd be more apt to do Diablo. I think I will get to Castlevania at some point, but I'm pretty excited for this. I think this might be one I'd be definitely interested in watching. What say you, Josh?
I'm all on board. I mean, I love the Diablo lore, so that's perfect. Netflix is a great place to do that. If you look at the success of like Spawn on HBO, you can definitely tell there's room for gritty shows that aren't anime necessarily, because
Right.
a lot of the stuff that's popular is like the crazy over the top anime stuff. So that's not IPs people know. So now you take something that some people will be familiar with. The Castlevania one was good, but it was a little over the top as well. But yeah, I'm excited. I guess I'd be more curious to see if they're going to try doing it like Castlevania style, or if they're going to try doing it more like CG style, like the Overwatch shorts and stuff like that. Because when you watch like the Diablo cinematics, they're definitely more like the computer graphic animation instead of like the hand-drawn style. So
Yeah, I feel like it would lend itself better to CGI too. I'm with you. Kyle, your thoughts? Any interest here? Have you watched Castlevania or any of that stuff?
So here's the deal. I heard about this, right? I'm like, oh, Diablo. Okay. I'm Activision. I'm working with Netflix because I want to put,
Wait, what was that? I couldn't hear you.
He said he was Activision.
I'm saying if I was Activision, if I
ran Activision,
and I'm sitting talking to the person who runs Netflix, I'm sure it's just one person.
Yep.
And
Just one.
And I said, okay, I want to take one of my properties and I want to make an animated series about it. I could either take this game series that hasn't had a new installment in a millennium, not really that long, but it's been a really long time. Or I could take this game series that has 20 professional teams in a league that I'm trying to promote, with a World Cup going on right now, with constant updates like every month about new things that are happening, with heroes that people love and adore, that already has shorts that people are like, why isn't this a show?
Because
I'm going to pick the game that hasn't had a new game in forever. Really?
Kevin, I think Activision is mad.
Oh my God. How did it not do Overwatch? How is this not an Overwatch show?
At least it's not Call of Duty. At least it's not Call of Duty.
How is this not an Overwatch show?
Maybe they wanted to do something like proof of concept.
I probably will watch this. I have no doubts I probably will. But I just am really disappointed because I really want an Overwatch something, a movie, a show, something. And I can't believe that that's not what they went.
Maybe they're shopping it around and they're just looking for somebody to produce it that has the interest. Like maybe this writer, being Hellboy and Diablo, is kind of a closer alignment as far as like style than it would be doing Overwatch. Maybe they'll in search for something like that. Or if they're not doing the CGI route for Diablo, it might be a budgetary thing where the cost of making a fully CGI series on Overwatch would be substantially more expensive than a drawing one. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I want immediate gratification now.
We don't get. I think in the world we can't have Overwatch movie because we need a Sonic live action movie. If you haven't seen the pictures of Jim Carrey dressed as Dr. Eggman, it's something to look up.
It looks like more like Dr. Light from Mega Man than. Like he looks nothing like. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting there. But anyway. Let's get on to the biggest news story, I think, of this week, possibly of this month, possibly one of the biggest ones of this year, actually, which just broke a few hours prior to us recording this. TellTale Games, makers of The Walking Dead, Minecraft Story Mode, Batman, Game of Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy, Wolf Among Us, all this stuff. Last month, the TellTale representative said the company's game engine had let fans down in recent times. We've all known that. We've all complained about that. But yet we still play these games. We still buy them. And it was not allowing the team to deliver the experiences they really wanted to. So they said they would be scaling back. They'd be pushing projects back out in order to focus on fewer things at the same time instead of juggling all these IPs and give a more polished experience within each of its upcoming releases, specifically focusing on The Last Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, and then the upcoming Stranger Things were the ones that they were going to be focusing on. Well, I guess it all caught up to them. They laid off hundreds of employees, with TellTale confirming they only have kept 25 people on the crew. The remaining skeleton crew will stay on to fulfill its obligations to its board and partners. This includes work on the Minecraft story mode project for Netflix. The company's CEO, Pete Hawley, released the only press statement we've seen so far. It's been an incredibly difficult year for TellTale as we work to set the company in a new course. Unfortunately, we ran out of time trying to get there. We released some of our best content this year and received a tremendous amount of positive feedback, but ultimately that did not translate to sales. With a heavy heart, we watch our friends leave today to spread our brand of storytelling across the games industry. Now, that was the initial thing that came out. Everyone's like, whoa, man, Stranger Things is done. We're not going to get another Batman. Oh, we're not going to get The Wolf Among Us. And then people started questioning, well, what's going to happen with The Walking Dead? The final season is going on right now. Well, while TellTale has not come out and confirmed it, there are sources both within reporting to Game Informer and US Gamer from TellTale stating it will not be completed, that they are only focusing on the Minecraft story mode adaptation for Netflix. So the first episode of the TellTale's Walking Dead final season premiered August 14th. Second is due to launch next week, or this week if you're listening to the podcast. They released off confirmation season is canceled. They haven't said anything. People are wondering what happens. People paid $20 for the season pass and they aren't getting the rest of it, or the people who are possibly pre-order, or is they still going to release the $30 season pass disc that was set to come out November 6th that was going to contain the whole story? Yeah, it's just really bad news that it looks like we're not even going to get closure to one of the most influential stories we've seen in the last couple years. I mean, everyone loves Clementine and seeing that journey, and this was supposed to be the end of that journey, and now we won't know how it ends. It's pretty bad. So Donnie sent in the question. He was so saddened to hear the TellTale news earlier today. It was a primary series of games that he's played with his wife. Did we ever play any TellTale games with our significant others? And if so, where do we go from here? And he also brings up another point. He really hopes people think twice about supporting Life is Strange next week, because you could easily see the same thing happen there. So I will say I'm bummed, because I've been one of the people that have bought most of the TellTale series early on, not necessarily on sale, especially the Batman ones. Those were a day one purchase for me. The Walking Dead, the original, was a day one purchase for me. Wolf Among Us, day one purchase. So I didn't wait till these sales that we saw where they dropped down to like $5 or they're free on, Game Pass or, PS Plus or whatever they have you there. So I'm one of the people who did support TellTales in most of their franchises. There were some things I was not interested in. Game of Thrones, I didn't play. I had zero interest in that. That's fine. But they made great stories. The Batman games, the stories they did were fantastic. Wolf Among Us was incredible in my mind. And Walking Dead is just the thing that drives me nuts that we're not going to see the ending to the story. I have not played anything with my wife, but I brought them up to her and said, hey, we should do this. I have the Guardians of the Galaxy one. That's what I was planning on doing, which I can still do. But we're not going to see anything else come down the line. That's really bad. And the way this is falling apart, and now people wondering, like, well, I bought the season pass. Now I'm out this money. I'm not going to get my conclusion of the story. I hope TellTale, even in my mind, at least puts out a script or something, letting us know what the intended finale of Clementine was going to be. Do we see these licenses, these franchises being picked up by somebody else and carry on with the TellTale style, or is this just dead completely? What do you guys think? Kyle, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this was really disappointing news. I mean, business is business, I guess. And if you don't have the money to pay people, it's really hard to continue to make games. And, I think that's the hard thing of if somebody bought the season pass and you're going down to the skeleton crew. I'm sure that they're probably, I think it said that they declared that they filed for bankruptcy potentially. So probably fulfilling their obligations to their partners is just a way for them to not lose even more money than they probably already lost. So it might not be that they don't want, I'm sure it's not that they don't want to finish it. Right. They literally just maybe can't, like they can't pay people to finish these games, and then if you're declaring bankruptcy, you also don't have any money to give back, so that's what stinks about that. When I think about TellTale, obviously their engines always had problems, but when I think about Tales from the Borderlands, which was one of the funniest games I played in my period ever, one of my favorite games of that year. I think about the Walking Dead season 1, and how much, I cried a lot at the end of that game. I cried a lot at the end of that game. And then I think about those storytelling in The Wolf Among Us. If you just look at just those 3 games alone and the quality of the storytelling in those games, and then you come to me today and be like, yeah, that studio is done? Really? Like, it seems like some really significant mismanagement had to happen for that to be true. Because sometimes, I guess, really good games don't always sell really well. But just when I think about how good those games were, now, like many of us, I got really weary of TellTale Games by the end, especially the quality of their engine, the glitches that would happen. Like, it got very tiring by the end, but I was almost always willing to forgive it because I liked the stories.
Mm-hmm.
I played most of the games. I played Game of Thrones. I have Guardians of the Galaxy. I paid for it. I haven't played it yet, but I have it. I've played all of the Walking Deads. I've played a lot of their stuff, and I'm really shocked. I was looking forward to seeing how The Walking Dead ended. I hadn't bought it yet, which I guess I'm glad for now.
Yeah.
But I was really looking forward to seeing how it ended. And, when you combine this with the fact that Capcom Vancouver closed this week as well,
Yep.
That's like 400 people who are suddenly out of jobs. And I think that for us, and, as video game fans, like, we know that making games is hard and making games is expensive. But that's 400 people who now are like, well, I got to figure out a new way to support my family. And that's just business as usual, which is really, really scary.
It's crazy because you look at generally when we see these stories happen, it's with the studios that put out a game and it was like critics bashed it. It didn't sell well. Like they were just flops. We never really heard that like, hey, Telltale's flopping because it was like, hey, this came out, got good reviews because the story is phenomenal. Yes, there's glitches, but it was never anything that would, much like you, make me put down the controller and say, this isn't worth it. I've gotten stuck somehow with playing Undertale 2 times. I had to repeat 10 to 20 minutes of gameplay already. And that's like, hello, that's nothing. Telltale never made that happen to me. But it was never like, oh, this game flopped, they've done horrible. It's always like, hey, we released this, and guess what we're doing next? It's like the hype machine was constantly going for Telltale, especially recently. So you're right. I think there's more to this story that we're going to find out over the next coming weeks, possibly months, but there has to be something more than just sales numbers, I feel. There has to be something else there. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just said it like that. The most surprising thing to me was the sales aspect of it. And I guess I never stopped to really look up what they're making, and it's not easy to find video game sales numbers. But I always just assumed it sold well, just from the amount of people that talk about their games, the IPs that they were getting, and from playing almost all their games, like their quality, the story is second to none.
Mm-hmm.
Like the story for those games are some of the best stories you can get, and you actually, whether or not you affect the outcome or not, you feel like every decision you make has to be done quickly, and it affects the story. Maybe not end game always, but even end game will affect which characters are still alive and what you're doing. And obviously, The Walking Dead was a groundbreaking game. Like, not it was the first true choose your own adventure current gen video game. Like, besides PC games, I don't think you ever see anything like that in consoles. And the first Walking Dead was incredible. Did it have its glitches? Yeah. Did I have to start it over? Yeah, and that stunk. Especially like almost all the way through the game. They definitely had hiccups. And I guess ultimately that's really probably what their issue was, because I stopped buying their games last year or the year before because I just didn't have faith in getting through the game. Like I like when the Batman game came out, Enemy Within, it was the last Telltale game I bought. And during the first episode, I made a decision that they logged as a different choice that changed the whole way the game played. It was like when he was dealing with the gangsters in Wayne Manor, one of the decision I made was the opposite of the decision the game chose for me, even though it highlighted it, saying I picked it. And like I stopped. I was like, I'm not going to finish Batman until the game is fully out and they've patched whatever the patches they're going to do, like, or hoped that they would patch it. But I still wanted to finish the game. But I guess ultimately, like, the question comes down to, were they cutting corners financially to get the games out? Were they biting off more than they can chew, working on 5 IPs at the same time? Whatever. But the case was, it was obviously a formula that, too much of a good thing can be bad. And maybe that's what happened. I don't know. This is just a consumer guessing, but if the consistent thing with TellTale, besides great storytelling, was glitches.
Glitches,
and that's not good.
It's true. Now this would be one I'd like to see Microsoft or Sony step up and be like, "Hey, we're buying you." Like, this is one in my mind that's worth saving. And I hate to say it more than others that we've seen be purchased, but I'm being honest here. I'd rather see the talent that works on these games working with somebody that maybe can provide better oversight in the big picture that they could probably benefit from, because I think these storytellers, these people who craft these things are way above the industry standard by far. And while, yes, splitting them up may help the industry as a whole, but realistically, when we look at this, okay, you wrote 2 episodes of Batman, TellTale, and now you work for EA. Do you really think you're going to get anywhere? Probably not. You're not going to get that level of control. I don't think anybody in TellTale's regards would. So I'd love to see somebody jump in, but I feel like it would have happened before we got to this point for sure.
Well, even if they got saved, like say, a Microsoft or a Sony stepped in to buy them, they're not going to buy that studio and employ 250 people.
Right.
That you're talking, that's like triple the size of Sony Bend. That's not a thing that's going to happen there. I could see them stepping in and buying the studio of 25, and doing a game a year, but I don't think they would step in and try to, for 250 people. I'm going to be really interested now to see what this means for Supermassive, who did Until Dawn. And then obviously once Until Dawn came out, everyone was like, oh man, like the Telltale game, maybe not quite as good of a story, but it looks way better. And that's actually the choices they do matter way more. And now with their new series that they're working on with the Dark Pictures grouping and stuff like that, I'm wondering if they are going to kind of maybe now take up this mantle of, that story-driven, shorter experience that, and really see that maybe they can, drive that home and pick up those fans and see how that works.
Or even scoop up some of those writers. Grab some of those TellTale writers.
Wasn't TellTale like teasing Avengers too?
They were teasing a Marvel project. I don't think they said what it was. They said it was another Marvel project.
I think we still need a company like TellTale if they can bring them back. But I think that they need to take on one project at a time, because like any one of us right here right now could try to do 15 game reviews. But if you're trying to do 15 game reviews, something is going to suffer somewhere in all of them to try to get them all done in a certain timeline.
Unless you have a team of like 12 people like us.
Right. Well, yeah, but the 3 of us, like even with that many people, like I don't know what goes into developing those games, but I can tell you that for just the writing staff alone to write those games, not only does it take a lot of time, that takes a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And it takes a lot of people to do that. So it's just honestly, that's a devastating loss for gaming, because it was one of the truly unique brands out there. One of the, like, it's not a sports game, it's not a shooter, it's not a fighting game. There's one other game out there that's like, two, Until Dawn and Life is Strange.
Yeah,
those are the 2 games that are like it, and even them, all 3 of them are very different in the way that they're portrayed in gaming. So it really stinks.
It does. I'm going to end it on that, because that's a good way to say it stinks. Bottom line, it stinks. So, guys, what do you say we wrap this thing up? Let's do some plugs. So, Josh, what would you like to plug, sir?
What should I plug? Kyle is on this really cool podcast. It's called Board of the Video Games. I'm gonna plug Kyle for my plugs today. So it's this thing. Sorry, I got my phrasing in my head now. Archer's yelling at me. So we do this cool video game podcast. It's called Board of the Video Games. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the Gmail, all with the same title. It's something that we're really proud of, and we just surpassed episode 50, closing in on our year anniversary, which is huge. And we just appreciate you guys listening and your fan engagement, and hopefully people are participating in our contests to make Bored with Video Games exciting every week.
And I do want to point out that you guys beat Nintendo Shack to having 50 episodes, by the way. So you are, next to this show, the most consistent product.
We were even forced to skip a week against our will. We would have had one more.
That's true. That's true. Kyle, where can people find you, sir?
Yeah, so you can find me at Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Twitter, Board Game Geek, Instagram, all the usual places, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. Yes, check out Bored with Video Games. We're super proud of it. And I have shared my secret project with these two, but I have a secret project, a new show coming soon to a YouTube near you. It might have to do with a game I talk about a lot and a game I talked about even on this show today. So we'll just leave it at that.
Oh, you're not going to tell them?
Nope.
No. Nah, it's a great concept. It's worth keeping your eyes peeled for everybody. So follow the show at PSVG. Follow the network there. You can follow me specifically if for some strange reason you want to do that at PSVG Kevin. Make sure you subscribe to twitch.tv/PSVG to find out all the stuff we're streaming. Once I'm done with Spider-Man, I'm going to get back to streaming a little more regularly. I know the only reason I wasn't streaming Spider-Man is we had both Seth and Josh were posting some stuff there too. And some of it actually got taken down because copyright strikes. And for some reason, I don't know, it was really weird. Nathan streams them too, so I'm waiting until I play something else and I'll be streaming. I'll be back on that flow. Head over to the website, psvg.blog. Make sure you click on the Discord link and join us over in the Make Us Better Discord. We will make your workday go much faster because you can chat with us about anything and everything all at the same time. It's always hopping over there. And then last but not least, of course, patreon.com/makeusbetter. Your money not only goes to help us, but many other talented creators all in one place. So instead of juggling multiple Patreon contributions, your one contribution here supports so many other people. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Thanks for listening. But more importantly, we ask that you never stop gaming.